should be more or less live. Hi, everyone. I'm just trying to work out where I put Garry. There we are. Hi, everyone. I am here with Garry Sharpe. Garry, you ran Invasion of Europe recently. How did it all go?
Yeah, it was good. We had a 26 player event. Fortunately, two of the people failed to turn up. Might have had something to do with you belittling their lists.
Oh, no, I hope not.
Yeah, we had the Italians that they surrendered before the event started.
Well, classic
Uh,
Italian.
yeah, so that was a bit of a theme, and
Okay.
then we had the Brandenburger list that also went so far behind enemy lines that they got lost
Oh,
and didn't turn up. So, so, so yeah, we had two down, but we had 24 players. About half of them were German,
yeah.
and then the remaining lot were a mixture of Russian, British, US. And one Japanese player. Not a huge sort of spread,
No.
but that's to be expected, I think, at the minute. And obviously,
And
we'll just have to.
could you just remind people as well, because your pack had a very specific points and dice cap, which sort of pushed everything in one direction, which was a really
Yeah.
interesting new direction for me.
I mean, I'm not sure exactly how much I'm supposed to say as regards, obviously, conversations with Alessio. However, I've done a fair amount of playtesting with Alessio himself,
Yeah.
and I know that it's something that he's very keen to push Warlord with regards to their organised events, whether that be through support
Mm.
or with the Warlord name to it. I think trying to get away from um, lots of MSU and making an event pack. I think he's got plans to sort of try and say, look, these are the scenarios we recommend for a
Yeah.
tournament. This is the points level and so on and so forth, and try and do a pack for TOs, whether they be experienced or newer.
Mm.
And obviously, the first one was this 12 dice 1250, which uh, obviously hurts some factions. I'm not sure that you'd even be able to get 12 dice and 1250 with, for example, partisans. Um,
You would have to buy everything like 15-man units of veterans.
yeah, I mean, I think the Japanese player had about 9 tanks in total. It
Yeah.
seemed lots of these little tankettes things just to eat up points on dice.
Yeah.
So yeah, it did give most players probably took Death Stars to a degree, and some people took more than that.
More than
but
one.
yeah. But it's still a dice game at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and when you miss 3 times with a tiger on a 3+ at point blank range
Oh, that sucks.
in the
That
last game, and your Sturm Tiger hits a pack wagon, and then rolls a 1 on the mass on the you know
you gotta
if
laugh.
you
Yeah.
if think with bolt action, if you have bang average dice, it's down to the ability of the player.
Yeah.
If you
But
don't
if you
have good
don't,
dice, there's nothing you can do. So you just have to sometimes just smile and go, well, it wasn't,
yeah.
who'd want to win their own tournament anyway?
That's exactly my point, right? You don't want to
Yeah, no,
win your own
exactly. Yeah,
tournament. Yeah.
I didn't throw. I mean, a few people thought I threw it. I didn't throw it. I just had really diabolical dice. But no, I mean the event was good. The feedback was great.
Yeah.
I think what we also did as well, which we tend to do in other game formats, i.e. Warhammer Fantasy Battle, 40k, etc., is we award attrition points for
Yeah.
or bonus points for killing dice. Now, we did have some feedback from a couple of players in the fact that they felt that was a little unfair and that they should just be there for VPs
Yeah.
or the definer. But it does also award you for being aggressive.
Mm.
And obviously, some people don't like that, but it is a tournament setting. And I think if you are going to lose the scenario, then it does give you an ability to still score some extra
Something.
points.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think equally, the scenarios still need some work in V3. Things like playing breakthrough, where you could have rangers who can all run off the board in turn one, because they can go off at the 12-inch marker, and they get the free run, and they start with prepared positions. They start on the table, so literally it's just recce vehicles that get shot and just run straight off and score 3 points. So I think
there are some unforeseen maybe consequences for some of the missions. Right?
I mean, I think the thing is that, I mean, previously when we've run version 2, we did a lot of custom scenarios, and obviously back during version 2 you had a lot of independent scenarios that were all over the internet, not just the stuff out the book. So I think as we progress through, it will get a lot better, but overall we had, I wouldn't say the most competitive field, which actually created a really good event, and it also meant that people like Chris Cadd, fair play to him, he played his second, third and fourth game of Bolt Action, brought Japanese, and basically drew the first game, won the next two, not by a lot, not by huge margins. I think in total he only took 14 dice out of 3 games.
Wow!
But he came fourth.
So, that's so brilliant, right?
So I mean, he took literally 14 dice. I took 12 in my first game.
Wow! By the way, you took 12 in your first game? Oh my God! You must have obliterated your opponent.
He didn't have anything left. I killed the last commando with an HE shell from a tiger. The last roll of the dice, killed him. But again, that's the dice for you, and there's also the deployment. Unfortunately, that one there, stuff came on the board. He brought his Firefly on. Unfortunately for him, my Tiger was the next one to come on. And rolled the required 5. He failed his cover save. He got hit in the side with a Panzer Ace, and that was the end of his Firefly. And then the next turn of turn 2 was the Sturm Tiger killing his Wasp and subsequently taking out his Humber at the same time with the blast template. So,
well, okay, so you had some interesting games.
So it was, I think all of the games were particularly tight. There was a few obviously rules issues, but we had Mark Vance, one of the playtesters there, myself and Alessio. So there wasn't anything too much. It was just more, can you clarify this or this? So it was actually a nice, easy to manage event, and everyone seemed very happy at the end.
Which is what you want, right?
Yeah, totally.
Can I ask you about one thing? Because that's one of the things that a lot of us have been sort of trying to work out. What would be the right balance of terrain to have on our tables here in V3?
Well, I think for me, I ran a list that was quite HE heavy. So it had 2 medium mortars, it had 2 howling cows, and obviously a Sturm Tiger.
Yep.
We had I think I put you into the or I invited you to the group. So I did a photograph of all the tables, and I would say that our tables were particularly heavily dense with terrain. Yeah. And I think the issue is that terrain is fine. I think line of sight blocking terrain is the biggest problem.
Okay.
Because for me, and the way my list was set up, and with the dense amount of terrain on our boards, it was a case of fire channels were particularly tough going. Yeah. Don't mind cover saves. But I think if you're working on the basis of you're putting 2 or 3 woods on a table, and then subsequently you're putting 2 or 3 buildings on a table, that's probably the max. And I think in some cases with our boards, they look fantastic, but and clearly we don't want to go to the 40k realms of making every board the same with cardboard cutouts.
No, that would suck. I mean, it's the best thing about our hobby is our beautiful tables, right?
No, exactly. But so I think more cover but less line of sight blocking cover is the key.
Okay,
You
so
want,
to find the right balance of that, yeah.
exactly, because even things like just moving around the table, yeah, it is. And again, because we had a 12 dice cap, it's easy to hide everything.
Yeah.
So again, if it had been, for example, the your recent GT in Norway, I think it was, where you had 20 dice cap,
Yeah.
it's a lot harder hiding 20 dice than it is hiding 12 dice.
A lot harder.
So as such, I think that there is the balance to be had. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the exact rule of thumb is on it at the moment. I think plenty of fences, plenty of bocage. Got to be careful with your roads. You've got to put craters or line of sight block tank traps or whatever it is to stop stuff
so
running
that
off.
the breakthroughs don't become like
roads look great, but recce vehicles are a nightmare on roads. And I think probably 3 or 4 buildings and 2 or 3 woods is more than enough, and then have ruins and bits and bobs. So I think that's probably more the key. So I think we probably went a bit over the top.
But they did look beautiful. So
they look crazily good. Yeah, I was finishing off my V2 rocket just before the event, and it never even got to get used because that table never was out the back, and obviously we had the 2 people pull out. So all that effort for nothing.
All that effort for nothing. Right. Yeah. So the next thing I wanted to do was to just show everyone the results, and let's just bring those up here. So Rob, he came first with his German army.
Yeah.
And then Jack took second. Sorry?
Yeah. Rob's list was really quite good. I played Rob in the last round. I mean, obviously my dice were diabolical, so yeah. I'm gonna give him credit. I think it was quite a well balanced list for that event, because he saved points but still took big guns with the pack wagons, of which he had 2. He had a Hetzer, so he had 3 big guns there.
Yeah.
So he had his anti-tank capability, but he didn't waste loads of points on it. He then had a couple of heavy mortars, and then pretty much, I think from memory, it was all. He had a SD. I think it was 222. And then he also had units of vets with assault rifles, so they could move, put a lot of fire down. I think there were like 8 or 9 man units, so it was like 18 dice at a time coming at you.
And I can actually, while we're discussing his list, I can actually show it to people at home, because this wasn't it. Was it this one? Yeah, this was
Rob LeMay. So yeah, I think overall, in fairness to the guy, probably actually the most balanced list for the event, I would say.
Yes, and I think it was a great idea having all his infantry be veteran here. It's very survivable, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Survivable. I mean, obviously, he's very survivable if I only roll 1s and 2s, but on the same token, it had. I mean, the list I took would have been better against more dice.
Yeah.
The Howling Cows. Basically, the enemy's got 12 dice across a 6-foot deployment zone. So I need more dice to be able to then go, I need a 6, I need a 6, I need a 6, I need a 6, I need a 6. I think the most dice any Howling Cow ever rolled was 3. So obviously you're fishing for 6s on limited dice. So yeah, I mean, I don't think, Howling Cows, as fun as they are, they need to be used in 16 plus dice lists.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I think the clever thing, by the way,
they didn't work.
Yeah, I think the clever thing about Rob's list here, and I sort of missed that, is yes, it's very weak. Like his pack wagons here, they're very weak because they're 7+. But they're all touting heavy anti-tank guns, right? So he has 3 heavy anti-tank guns, which would normally
can afford to lose one.
Yeah, he can afford to lose them, and he can afford to just shoot at the enemy heavy tanks and see if he kills it with 1 of 3 shots. And
again, if he does, because even the Hetzers isn't particularly expensive. So if he can take an enemy tank out with a pack wagon, it's doubled its points at least.
At least.
Yeah, and as I say, he had he had 3 of those,
Yeah.
and then obviously he's got his recce vehicle. So yeah, that worked quite well,
It worked
and
quite well. Yeah.
obviously the infantry then did their job, which was run up the board and escape the board or enter deployment for breakthrough.
Yeah.
Obviously, for the objective-based scenarios, obviously he's got stuff that can sit in a building, then if need be, just go down and hold objectives or just put a lot of firepower out. And again, because they're vets, and I think he was running 8 in a unit.
Hmm.
Worst case scenario, if you whittle the enemy down to 3 or 4 guys, he could even risk an assault
Yeah.
in a defended location with vets.
Yeah.
Because again, a lot of the players did bring regular troops as well. So, I mean, I had inexperience just to save the points because I took the double tiger. But yeah, I mean, he could have easily assaulted as well if he needed to. Which was, I think, we only had 1 assault in the entire event.
That's very good to hear, because it means that I am on the right track.
Well.
That assault has simply disappeared from the game.
Yeah,
Right.
it was Alessio, and it was a game-winning assault. I.e.,
Oh well.
It just stood there. It was on one objective, so it was on the objective-based game,
Yeah.
and I think Jack, who came second, was playing him at the time, and
Yeah.
he had the objective, and shooting him wouldn't have done anything because obviously they're sticky, so he had no option but to assault, and it was a 1 dice swing one way or the other.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, or fortunately, Alessio didn't get the luck of the draw there.
Well, and yes, as you mentioned, sorry, as you mentioned, we do have Jack, because I'm back now looking at the results here. So we have Jack in second, Sam in third, and then Chris, and then yourself. And of course, we have Paul, and then Alessio, and then the people I thought would potentially win this, Martin, Knowles, and Fairweather, they ended up in 8th and 9th place. So I was completely wrong in my predictions for the event. But there you go. I think it's a difficult points cap, because it's so unusual from what I usually cover and what I usually attend. So it was really difficult for me to actually figure out what was going to happen here, I think.
Yeah. Also, I think it's down to the player. I mean, obviously, you can look at the list, and obviously, Martin's list on paper was good, but it's in the hands of Martin, who is a thoroughly nice guy, but not one to ever go for the jugular. I mean, this is a guy who in version 2 would bring the British WI to an event and stuff like that. So he's all about the theme. And I think equally, looking at his dice kills in the 3 games.
Yes, I'll just bring that up on the screen here. So
6.
Yeah.
Took 6. He took 6 out of 36 dice.
3 in the first one, 1 in the second, and 2 in the last game.
Yeah. So not someone who will finish units off generally.
But
yes,
but I mean,
he'll play for the scenario. He won 2 games, drew 1.
Yeah.
And obviously still only ended 8th.
But getting 8th place and only killing 6, that is actually kind of cool.
Yeah. No, as I say, and he's he's probably one of the nicest guys there, to be fair. But he just, and I think, in fairness, he I mean, I think, nobody actually took less dice than him. There was 3 players that took 6 dice in the event.
Yeah.
The other guys finished 20th and 23rd.
Yeah.
So for him to finish 8th, take 6 dice, he plays the scenario, plays it well, is very defensive, so he looks after his own dice, but equally, because he's being defensive, I don't think he's necessarily going out killing much. So, yeah.
But that is brilliant. I also wanted to just, we've already looked at Rob's list, but maybe we should just have a brief look at at Jack and Sam's, because they haven't been covered here on this channel. But I have Jack's lists here, and it's a 12 order Soviet list here. He brings a platoon commander, large units of veterans. Again, that seems to have been a bit of a theme of what could do well in this meta here. Single unit of regulars, and then a howitzer.
Yeah.
And a couple of different heavy weapons, and then armor. It's a KVIS tank. So 10 plus armor, heavy anti-tank gun, and a Katusha. So what I would term a mixed bag of different units, all kinds of different stuff he could use. The Katusha,
Yeah,
I don't know how much he got to use that in his games. Do you?
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't actually play him. He played Alessio in the second to last game,
Yeah.
and I'm just trying to think who he did play in the last game. I can't remember off the top of my head, and I haven't got it in
Mm.
front of me. But I mean, again, I think the thing is that what appears to have worked quite well, and the same will be said of Sam's list, is if you like looking at it, there's nothing in there that stands out as spectacular.
Yeah.
It's just nice and balanced.
Yeah.
And I think at the low order dice, the balance is probably going to be the key.
Yeah.
Again, going back to mine, it was heavily unbalanced. If the dice worked, it went fantastically well, and if they didn't, it didn't. Whereas the players who finished first, second, third, and even fourth with Chris probably had more tools, although they weren't particularly big tools.
But we can see that now because I'll bring up Sam's list here. Sam obviously came third, and he is bringing Germans. So he has a veteran commander. He has 8-man veteran units here in Waffen SS units. He has a single 6-man unit, and he has a truck. He has heavy weapons platoon, so a medium machine gun, 2 of those. Veteran again to keep them alive. Panther. 222, 222, and that's it. So, I mean, again, it's a little bit of a mix where you have some stationary models, not as much artillery as Chris did, but still, it's nice and balanced. You got some infantry, they're veteran, they're survivable, and you got that Death Star heavy tank and a couple of support vehicles.
Yeah, and again, I think Sam, again, lovely guy. Not the most competitive, but again, I think he probably. The other thing as well with 3-game tournaments, you can sneak the top 6 if you win your first game and draw your next one, because then that puts you nicely in a position where if you can win that last one, you leapfrog.
Yeah.
I mean, both him and Chris, obviously, they both had draws. Relatively low scoring wins, but obviously again managed to stay consistent and effectively did the whole tortoise and the hare really, where they just managed to, you're not going to win a tournament playing like that, but at the end of the day, you're gonna hit that top 6, top 8, and considering 24 players, I think Sam, bless him, I think I think by his own admission, he'd have a nosebleed being that high up any table in any game he plays. So he's normally our ringer for a reason. But again, you can only play the people in front of you, and I think, as I said before, in fairness, I wouldn't say that this event was, shall we say, the most competitive meta. But so you probably had. Really, out of 24 players, you had 3 or 4 very inexperienced players. You had 3 or 4 very experienced players, and then that left you with 16 who quite frankly
knew what they were doing, but weren't there
to
beat
were doing.
things.
A lot of the names there are version 2 players, but again, I wouldn't say they're necessarily. A lot of these players were relatively local as well. I think the furthest someone came to the event was like a 2-hour drive, which for the UK is massive, but obviously 2 hours is nothing. It's just a trip to the local store. But a lot of these players are. I mean, we're in the Midlands, so a lot of the players are local. I wouldn't necessarily say a lot of these were going to go even to the. I know you did the Beachhead one a couple of weeks ago. Maybe 1 or 2 of them might have considered driving all the way to there, which is a whole 4 hours away. But most of them, they just enjoy the game, and I think that's the joy of bolt action. It's a game for anyone, and obviously, unlike 40k where you're throwing lots of dice, you are very much relying on the dice.
Yeah, true. So, Garry, here at the end, what is next? What's your next bolt action thing?
Right, so our next bolt action is, I'm just going to find the exact date as well, as I might as well get a
shout out, yeah.
It's May, I know that much, and we are changing the points value and order and dice. So it's going to be called a bridge too far, not a Cambridge too far, because they've already stolen that, and obviously we're not in Cambridge. I can't get anything that rhymes with Hinkley. So it's going to be. Let me just have a quick look on here. It is the 10th of May.
Yeah.
That's going to be the next event, and it's going to be 1,000 points. With a 14 dice. So again, we're going to sort of basically lose 250 points and gain 2 dice.
Yep.
So hopefully that will be...
That'll change up everything again.
Yeah, all the big cats will be gone. Obviously, we're a retail store, so it's nothing to do with the fact we're forcing people to buy more stuff.
But it's always it's nice not to get stuck with the same models all the time and bring some different stuff out. I really like that.
Again, that's the plan, is basically that let's just keep things fresh, let's move things around. I know in version 2, I think for probably 2 years we played the same points value, the same cat or platoon restrictions, etc., and people just bring the same army time after time, whereas with this it allows you, especially at 1,000 points, you can almost go, you know what, I've got till May, I'll start a brand new army, start the set and a couple of add-ons, and you're pretty much there, aren't you? So it's not exactly a huge buy-in with bolt action, which is another advantage. So we've already sold, I think we're 8 tickets already sold, so we're a third of the way to filling that. So
and you're going to run like a 24-26 man event again?
Yeah, I mean, within the store we're capped at 26, so basically that's where we're at. Obviously, if we went any higher than that, to make it make sense, we'd have to be doing 50 players. And I think the thing is that obviously Bolt Action is one of those events where the player base is growing. And definitely in store, it's since V3 landed, it's crazy how popular it's become. But on the same token, I don't think we're quite at the point where, you're running 150 player tournaments on a regular basis. So, if we get to that level, it'd be great. We just have to hire a venue. We've definitely got the terrain. We've got the capability of doing it. It's just the numbers at the end of the day. But unless we were going to hit 40 people, it wouldn't be worth us moving venue, because what we pay, it wouldn't be worth it. So what we'll probably end up doing is sacking off one of the other events and just doing more and more Bolt Action. Even if if you got to the point where we're running 26 player events every month, then that would be fine. So
brilliant.
More the merrier.
The more the merrier. Right. Gary, thank you so much for coming on the channel and talking about Invasion of Europe. And
no worries.
Good
and
luck with A Bridge Too Far.
And it's been everyone's been watching watching your videos and crying about their lists.
I'm sorry, people. I'm not an oracle. I don't know if your list is good or bad. Don't listen to me.
Well, I mean, Chris proved you wrong. He's the king of the Japanese at the minute.
King of the Japanese. Love it, Chris.
Hey, there you are. He's the future.
That is it.
All right.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And that's it from us. See you next time. Cheers.